بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته الكرام المنتجبين. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, may the praise be to God, the Lord of the universe, and may all the peace and the blessings be upon all the prophets, especially the greater prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, and upon his purified progeny and the believers of his companions. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and the blessings be with you. It's a pleasure to get to reconnect with you and to see you all are doing well and healthy, thanks God. We continue with our Quran study. Today we will recite verse number 7 at chapter 25 al-Furqan. I read the English. Haj Reza will read I read the Arabic. Haj Reza will read the English. I think we'll study 3-4 verses tonight, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقالوا ما لهذا الرسول يأكل الطعام ويمشي في الأسواق لولا أنزل إليه ملك فيكون معه نذيرا.
Yet they say, what is the matter with this messenger? He eats food and he walks in the markets. Why hasn't an angel been sent down to assist him and to act as a warner with him?
So the Quran has taught us earlier about the doubts that pagans in Mecca raised against the ministry of the Prophet and how they used to combat his ministry and message by promoting false accusations such as that the revelation is not but a set of legends and tales of the ancient people, so on and so forth. And here in this verse, they go back to their many accusations and doubts. They say, what kind of a messenger is this? He eats food. He walks in the market and in the streets, as if they are assuming that the Prophet should be like angels, that he should not consume food, or he should not walk in the streets and in the market. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was a very humble person. He would do his own shopping, go and buy foods, for example, carry his own belongings. He did not have somebody to help him carry his do the shopping or carry the shopping for him. So that was basically an excuse for the pagans to reject his ministry. Of course, the Quran in a previous and other verses has mentioned that the pagans would say that God should have sent an angel instead of a human. Human is not supposed to receive revelation or to be a messenger from God. And now they say, okay, he's a human. Let's assume and accept that he is a human. But what kind of a messenger is he when he walks in the street and eats food? So they are expecting somebody who, like a king or a very wealthy man who does not go shopping, who does not do his own things by himself. He has servants, he has people slaves who help him in that. But the Prophet was not like this. All the prophets were very humble. They lived as an ordinary people, without an extravagant life. So that was one of their excuses to reject the faith, that this man is an ordinary man. He cannot be a messenger. And then they said, okay, let's assume we accept the fact that he eats food, he drinks water, and he does his own things like shopping and carry his own belongings. But at least there should have been an angel sent with him, a physically visible angel, somebody that's an angel that people can see, that God would send with him to help him, to assist the prophet in promoting his ministry and message. That's another excuse they came with to reject the ministry of the prophet. Of course, pagans in Mecca, they never came short of such accusations or raising such false things and doubts about the prophet, basically to reject his ministry. Then the next verse says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أو يلقى إليه كنز أو تكون له جنة يأكل منها وقال الظالمون إن تتبعون إلا رجلا مسحورا.
Or why hasn't a treasure been thrown down on him? Or why hasn't a garden been sent which he can eat from? And the wrongdoers said, surely you are following a man who is bewitched.
So again, the pagans would say, all right, we accept that he is a human, he eats food, he does his own shopping, there is no angels accompany him. How about he is being a very wealthy person? They say, pagans say, don't you assume that God owns all the resources in this universe? He owns everything. Then why God did not give him a very big resource of wealth, an unlimited resource of money and wealth to support the prophet, to support his ministry, to support his own prophet? So he can spend out of that. He can give to the poor and the needy and the slaves in his community, and would support himself. So this is another way of looking at the ministry of the prophet and the way his lifestyle is and was, to reject, basically to reject his ministry. They would assume that if God would to send a prophet, of course he would give him unlimited source of wealth and money, such as a treasure, kanz in Arabic. So the prophet would not be short of wealth or money. The prophet, peace be upon him, used to work. He wasn't wealthy. Many Muslims who joined his faith and his religion were among the poor, the needy, the slaves, the weak in the community. They were not wealthy. So this is one of the reasons that they raised. Also, what they said, at least he should have had some kind of a ranch or a garden that produces fruit and food, and he can make living out of that. You see these excuses that they bring one after another. They never got short of raising the doubts, false things that they raised against the prophet in combating his ministry. And now they say he should have had at least a ranch, a garden, that it creates an income for him, a steady and a good income for him to support his ministry. أو يلقى إليه كنز أو تكون له جنة يأكل منها وقال الظالمون إن تتبعون إلا رجلا مسحورا. Now, after all these excuses that they brought, finally they said, in fact, you Muslims, you the followers of the Prophet, you are following somebody who's been subject of sorcery, bewitched. You know, the pagans accused the Prophet of variety of things. At times they accused himself to be a sorcerer, somebody who does magic. Here they say he has been subject of sorcery. He's been subject of a victim or being influenced by sorcery. So this is another accusation they brought. Why would they accuse him of being a sorcerer, as somebody who does magic? The reason is that the Prophet, when he used to recite the Quran, people would hear the recitation of the Quran from the Prophet and get influenced. He would grab their attention. They immediately knew that this is something beyond a human. This is a divine revelation. People would be attracted to listen to him. And this is how the community of Muslims grow. This happened to the point that the leaders of the pagans in Mecca decided to ask everyone who would go to the Grand Mosque where the Prophet would sit and recite the Quran, especially those newcomers, those who are visiting for first time after the ministry of the Prophet. They would ask them to put cottons in their ears. And they would ask why. They say, we don't want you to listen to this man. This man has some kind of a power, a magical power. The moment you hear him, you feel, you fall in love with his message and with his recitation and with the revelation. So they would ask people to put cotton in their ears so they would not hear the revelation. Of course, this would make people more curious to hear what the Prophet has to say. This is why they called him a magician. And now, in this verse, they called him bewitched, somebody who's been influenced by magicians. The reason is that they knew what the Prophet is receiving and reciting is not his own product. He's receiving this from Angel Gabriel, and Angel Gabriel from God. But they did not want to admit this fact. They did not want to acknowledge that this is a true divine revelation. This is why they said he's being influenced by magicians. They are influencing his mind and his personality, and this is how he's presenting what is based on their understanding what is revelation. Based on our understanding, it is a revelation. Based on their understanding, is an influence of magicians. All right. Any comment or questions so far? All right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, verse number 9. انظر كيف ضربوا لك الأمثال فضلوا فلا يستطيعون سبيلا. You are muted, Hajj. Can you unmute and
I apologize. See, O Muhammad, what sort of examples they apply to you, thus which cause them to go astray and cannot find the right way.
So the pagans in Mecca, instead of bringing arguments that counter the tenets of the Quran and the faith of Islam, the Quran would promote the oneness of God, the existence of God and the oneness of God. The Quran would teach about previous prophets and revelation from God to prophets. And the Quran would promote the concept of the day of judgment, the hereafter and the day of judgment. So instead of bringing an arguments to defeat these principles of the Quran, what they did, they targeted the personality of the Prophet himself. They would attack him with these various names that the Quran mentioned and we've studied before. He's a magician. He's insane. He's a subject of magicians. He receives this from somebody else or a group are teaching him, so on and so forth. So because their inability to counter the argument and the concepts of and teachings of the Quran, they decided to attack his own personality. And this is what the Quran is referring to. Look at what kind of examples they would bring. And the Quran says, this manner of them made them blindfolded from seeing the truth and follow the truth. انظر كيف ضربوا لك الأمثال فضلوا. They got so obsessed with attacking the personality of the Prophet to the point that this manner prevented them from seeing the truth and following the truth. For example, imagine somebody who hates a hospital, for example, or has a phobia from going to the hospital to the point that he would or she would reject getting the right treatment at the hospital. So his or her personal feeling toward that place or toward a person such as a physician or a nurse would prevent him or her from receiving the right treatment. And this is what happened for the pagans. This could happen to anyone, brothers and sisters, that we might lose focus and attention from the real concept that we need to pay attention to, and our thoughts get deviated to minor things. And this is what this verse is talking about. The pagans attacked the personality and the character of the Prophet personally, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the point that they actually were not able to see the truth and follow the truth. All right, and verse number 10. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم تبارك الذي إن شاء جعل لك خيرا من ذلك جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ويجعل لك قصورا.
one who, if he wanted, he could have given you better than things than those, such as gardens beneath which rivers flow, and he could have made for you palaces.
Yes, of course. God owns everything, and he is able to do everything. If God wanted, he would have given the prophet and all the prophets all the powers on earth and all the wealth on earth. He could have done that. But the question is how this could have helped promoting the faith. Power and wealth, how they would help promoting the faith. Yes, there could be a group of people, some people throughout history, that they get attracted by the false or fake beauty of money and power. And for a short term, the number of those who would follow such a leader, whose leadership based on wealth and power, the number of followers might increase for a short term. But after wealth and power gets perished or go away, the number would decrease and the followers would perish as well. Those who come because of wealth and power, they would go and perish because wealth and power perish as well. So this is what this verse is talking about. Tabarak alladhi in sha'a, hallowed be God, the one who, if he wanted, he could have given you much better resources than those that were mentioned by the pagans, such as a treasurer, such as a garden, a ranch, all other powers. He could have given you, but this is not the purpose of the faith. Somebody chooses the faith not because of personal and materialistic interests. Faith is chosen because it makes sense, because it has the reasoning power to convince people. And faith is chosen, people choose faith because of the spiritual fulfillment that they feel when they embrace the faith. This is why faith is chosen, but not because of an interest in money or in power. This, in fact, will make the faith and the ministry of prophets fail on the long term. So the purpose of faith is not to promise people wealth. This is an issue that some people might believe that, faith might bring them wealth, or might bring them other materialistic benefits. The faith does not. No faith promises that if people join that faith, they will be rich. If there is such faith, I think this is a fake faith. Religions provide spiritual well-being. They promise a spiritual happiness if the tenets and the practices of the faith are practiced. And within Islam, that since we are studying the Quran, this is the promise of the faith of Islam, that if you practice the faith of Islam correctly, and if the community as well practice Islam as a community, yes, the community will prosper if they practice it perfectly. Unfortunately, there is always a shortcoming in here that prevents a community from prospering spiritually and materialistically. But the religion, again, the religion does not promise its followers, especially the religion of Islam. I'm not sure about others, but I'm talking about the religion of Islam. Religion of Islam does not promise materialistic benefits per se, that if you join and embrace the faith of Islam, you will be rich. Never, never. Yes, the Quran says if you practice the faith, adhere to the faith, as God has wanted, God will shower you with His blessings. This will cause a community to prosper. This is something that would come as a package, but not as a promise. Throughout history, we've seen that at times that Muslims practice their faith, God has given them all the blessings they were showered with. So again, the purpose of the faith is not to enrich in a physical and materialistic way. It is in a very spiritual way. It's a healing for our spiritual needs. Yes. Any question or a comment so far? All right. The last verse. Let's see the time. Actually, we are at 6:30, so we'll continue this study, inshallah, for next week. We end here with verse number 10. Again, if there is a comment or there is a question, I'll be happy to answer the question if I can, and I'll be happy to hear your comment if you have any.
I have a comment/question.
Yes, please.
So do you want to pause the recording or you want to keep it going?
No, I'll hear your question and I'll re-say it so others will hear it.
So it's not well formulated. My comment is going to be when discussing if Muslims were to practice their faith perfectly, you said that there were times that the community benefited because the community as a whole was doing better. I was wondering if you could expound upon what time that would be, because I know that during the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a lot of turmoil, and obviously after that it's been much turmoil ever since. So I was wondering if you could expound on what era or time you're talking about that Muslims were better.
So the question is, somebody is asking what time Muslims were prospering throughout history, at the time of the Prophet, if it was, or after that, or in any time. So the answer is that when the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, of course, for many years, could be for 6 or 7 years, Muslims were going through poverty. A lot of poverty within the community. They struggled to really provide even food for their families. But later, maybe from the year 7th and onward, Muslims, in fact, poverty was reduced significantly. It was reduced significantly. And by the end of the 10 days, at 10 years in Medina, Muslims were prospering. However, the Prophet still was not a wealthy person. We should not take this as people accumulating wealth. when we say prospering, means that they could find food, they lived a basically healthy life, their essential needs were provided, their homes, jobs, and also all other needs were, they were not in a struggle as they were. And if you study the history of Muslims from an economic terms, at times that, you know, this zakat that was collected, zakat is a charity that Muslims have to pay every year. They pay it to the government or to a fund. That fund would collect all the charity and redistribute it among the needy of the community. So at times came that people from different regions and provinces within the Muslim state had a surplus. The zakat was, they collected, they redistribute some among the needy in the community, and then there was a surplus. They send it to Medina or to other capitals of the Muslims, and the head of the state would say, we don't need that. You spend it on your needs in your own region or a province. So it did happen at times that Muslims really, were prospering. It could be for many reasons, but it did happen throughout, history that Muslims were really prospering in many cases.
So
now, because
sorry?
All the
you weren't, so when you said when the whole community